Oldham County today, U.S. Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky says he plans to vote against raising the nation's debt limit as leverage to force the White House into budget reform. And as Paul also tells WHAS11's political editor Joe Arnold, he plans to file a bill next week that would prevent the country from defaulting on its debts.
I'm not in favor of raising the debt ceiling unless we have significant budgetary reform that shows we're going to change our ways and we're going to begin to balance the budget.
Rand Paul says President Obama's refusal to negotiate over the debt ceiling simply means the president is not going to reduce spending or the government.
I don't think the president is accurate when he says, oh, we have to pay our bills, because raising the debt ceiling doesn't pay your bills. It pays the interest on your bills, and you keep accumulating more.
The president says it simply means the full faith and credit of the United States shouldn't be held for ransom.
And Republicans in Congress have two choices here. They can act responsibly and pay America's bills, or they can act irresponsibly and put America through another economic crisis.
The debt limit is the ultimate bargaining chip, but this high-stakes capital tightwire act has some Americans nervous.
You need to get people, the hardliners on both sides of the aisle, to understand that, now is the time to make a decision. We've kicked this can down the road long enough.
I don't make a whole lot here. And I mean, what they've done so far has already affected my paycheck.
Yet Paul says if the president was a responsible leader, he would take default off the table. And a bill Paul plans to introduce next week, Paul says, would prevent default if Congress refuses to raise the debt ceiling. It would instead obligate the U.S. to pay interest on the debt and other high priorities, such as Social Security, first.
I think it's not responsible for the president to say, oh, if we don't raise the debt ceiling, we're going to default. We bring in over $200 billion in revenue every month, and the interest payment's $30 billion. So there's plenty of money to pay the interest every month.
I asked Paul whether Congress is legally obligated to spend the money it already voted on. He thinks that his new bill would supersede those previous ones. In Oldham County, Joe Arnold, WHAS 11 News.
The Obama administration maintains that it cannot prioritize payments, as Paul is suggesting there, and some observers question whether the government's automated systems, which process invoices and payments, would be able to selectively pay some bills and not others.
Senator Rand Paul says he is proceeding with legislation against gun control measures that he revealed to WHAS 11 News yesterday. And he supports school districts allowing teachers and principals to carry firearms.
But I think also ordinary citizens deserve to have some protection as well. And it is a bit hypocritical that the president's children get protection and nobody else. We forbid the protection in other schools.
Paul says he hasn't seen a controversial new NRA ad which delivers a similar message.
Well, Senator Paul is vowing to vote against raising the nation's debt ceiling unless President Obama agrees to significant budget reform. Rand Paul says President Obama should stop scaring people with warnings that the United States will go into default. Kentucky's junior senator tells WHAS 11's political editor Joe Arnold he has a solution to prevent that.
At the Oldham County Library, U.S. Senator Rand Paul explained his debt ceiling position to the Chamber of Commerce.
We use the leverage of the debt ceiling to try to get the president to negotiate.
And library worker Tricia Perry explained her Congress debt ceiling vote worries to me.
I don't make a whole lot here. And I mean, what they've done so far has already affected my paycheck. And especially in the winter months with the LG&E bills and such, it makes it really hard.
And Republicans in Congress have two choices here. They can act responsibly and pay America's bills, or they can act irresponsibly and put America through another economic crisis.
Paul, however, says he has yet another option. He says a bill he'll file next week would prevent America from going into default if Congress votes against raising the debt limit.
The president would be mandated to pay Social Security, pay Medicare, pay the interest on the debt, pay the soldiers' salaries, and 3 or 4 other things, and then he'll prioritize the rest. Some things would be wiped out completely.
Paul points to pork barrel projects and a need to root out waste in every government agency.
It wouldn't be the perfect way to do things to immediately balance your budget. The only reason I'm in favor of doing it as a temporary means is that if we can get a month or two beyond raising the debt ceiling and we're partially defunding the inefficient part of government, then maybe they would come to the table and do something meaningful, which would be entitlement reform, a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution.
To raise the debt ceiling, there still has to be some attachments to the spending. We've got to reduce spending in this country.
So your message to Congress?
Stop the pork, find the missing money, and help the little people.
Paul is also upset with pork in the Hurricane Sandy relief bill, which the House includes money for performance art in New York. In Oldham County, Joe Arnold, WHAS 11 News.